Nope. I mean, not that this show hasn't been painful up till now or anything, but it's about to get a whole lot worse. My name is Rebecca, and brace yourself for... Okay, I gotta take this thing off, it doesn't feel right. Today I'm talking about the Reichenbach Fall. If BBC Sherlock has one overarching narrative, which the writers have told us it does, then this episode is the most important one of the show. The conflicts raised here still continue to impact the story even 3 years later. Going into this episode, I want to continue to be transparent about the fact that I recently read M-Theory for the first time, and it helped me understand a lot of things that didn't make sense to me about the Reichenbach Fall and beyond. I've provided a link to Artfulkindoforder's Google Drive with the meta again, and I seriously cannot recommend highly enough that you read it. Before we get into the episode, let's re-establish where we were at the end of The Hounds of Baskerville. Sherlock is in love with John.
You're looking for a man probably with a history of military service and nerves of steel.
How long have you been following me?
Since the start. Dinner. Take my card. Excellent. What else? Where are you going?
I will burn the heart out of you, John. All right. Are you all right?
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm fine.
Sherlock.
Sherlock? I'd say he was heartbroken, but, well, he's Sherlock. He does all that anyway.
And realized in Battersea, where Irene and John had their meeting, that John is in love with him as well.
Look at us both.
But Sherlock is afraid to share his feelings because that would put John in danger from Moriarty.
Look at me, I'm afraid, John. Afraid.
So he's been pushing John away as much as he can.
Always been able to keep myself distant, divorce myself from feelings. But look, you see, body's betraying me.
While already trying to hint that he might have to fake his death, like we saw with the Cluedo board. John has been in love with Sherlock essentially since the start.
Problem? Want to see some more?
Oh, God, yes.
It's brilliant. It's fantastic.
And since yesterday you've moved in with him and now you're solving crimes together. Might we expect a happy announcement by the end of the week?
So you've got a boyfriend?
No.
Right, okay.
You're a great boyfriend. Sherlock Holmes is a very lucky man.
Somebody loves you.
But it's usually subtext.
But in his mind has more than enough evidence to believe that Sherlock will never feel that way about him.
John, I think you should know that I consider myself married to my work.
I think he wants to be distracted.
I hope you'll be very happy together.
Especially after the 1-2 punch of thinking Sherlock was in love with Irene.
57?
Sorry, what?
57 of those texts.
Has he ever had any kind of girlfriend, boyfriend, a relationship ever?
Do you ever reply?
You flirted with Sherlock Holmes.
You jealous?
Do you think you'll be seeing her again? Did she ever text you again after all that?
And then Sherlock exhibiting an apparently extreme lack of feeling in Baskerville.
I don't have friends.
Oh, God. It was you. You locked me in that bloody lab.
I had to. It was an experiment.
An experiment? I was terrified, Sherlock. I was scared to death.
He's staying with him anyway. He's given up on dating entirely, not having dated anyone seriously since the Christmas party in A Scandal in Belgravia, and has totally devoted himself to their life together, in whatever way Sherlock will have him. And as we saw at the end of Hounds, Moriarty's obsession with Sherlock has only gotten more intense.
Got yourself a fan.
Hello. Sexy.
Carl Powers, John.
What is it?
That's where I began.
The killer kept the shoes all these years.
Yes. Meaning?
He's our bomber.
This is about you and me. We were made for each other, Sherlock.
I gave you my number. I told you my call. But the flirting's over, Sherlock. Daddy's had enough now. I have loved this. This little game of ours. Playing Jim from IT. Playing gay. Did you like the little touch with the underwear? My dear.
Jim Moriarty sends his love.
He's released from custody at Mycroft's orders.
All right.
Let him go.
And we see his main motivation is still Sherlock. So that's where we are going in. This episode is going to do three main things. First, it's going to worsen John's misunderstanding of Sherlock's feelings almost irrevocably. Not quite, since that's the whole point of romantic conflict, but it's going to take a very dramatic moment for John to be able to see Sherlock's great heart again after this. Secondly, the main conflict of this episode, and in fact the whole series, is Sherlock being faced with a dangerous, psychopathic stalker who's been obsessed with him since childhood and won't take no for an answer. Establishing that the central conflict of the show is romantically fueled makes Sherlock's romantic feelings central to the story, and tells us that the story will likewise be resolved through a romance. I've already talked about this a bit in Mirrors Part 1, but there's even more to come. Thirdly, you might remember that A Scandal in Belgravia, the first episode to explicitly focus on Sherlock's sexuality, introduced a theme of Sherlock's public persona and reputation. That theme continues here and will keep having a presence in Series 3 and beyond. And this focus on Sherlock's identity, literally his sexual identity at certain points, is extremely fitting for the first Holmes adaptation to bring Sherlock Holmes and John Watson out of the closet. And again, the way all three of these subjects are handled in this episode continues to have an impact throughout the rest of the series, so it's important to understand them here. The episode begins after Sherlock has already died. It's a reference to the Doyle canon when the final problem began with Watson informing the audience that sadly, this was Sherlock Holmes' last case before his death. But this scene also lets us see how Sherlock's death impacts John, so much so that he has trouble even saying what happened aloud.
You know why I'm here. I'm here because...
So this scene is placed here not only as a reference, but so that we can have that image of John's devastation at Sherlock's death in mind throughout the episode. So that when we see John acting annoyed about Sherlock apparently not understanding feelings, it's because he has feelings of his own for Sherlock that are so deep they're almost unspeakable.
And my best friend, Sherlock, is dead.
It also makes the audience view these events from John's eyes, so we see Sherlock hurtling away from John and towards his demise almost like it's on purpose. Because of this, it takes a very careful eye to see that something is very clearly wrong with Sherlock, because one of the primary elements of the episode is that John does not understand Sherlock, not where it matters most. I'll be pointing out Sherlock's vulnerability, since that's important to understand too. Sherlock's afraid of what's coming. He's only pushing away John to keep him safe. I said this episode places an emphasis on image and reputation, right? Well, that's obvious right from the first case. In The Final Problem, the story that this episode is based on, the climax took place on the Reichenbach Falls. In this episode, the Falls of the Reichenbach is a painting, an image that Sherlock has to recover.
Falls of the Reichenbach, Turner's masterpiece, thankfully recovered owing to the prodigious talent of Mr. Sherlock Holmes.
Later, he'll reimagine his final showdown with Moriarty as happening on the cliffs inside the painting, because this is where everything started to go wrong. He started taking high-profile cases, even after expressing distaste at the idea a few episodes prior.
Still, it's good for the public image. Big case like this.
Private detective, the last thing I need is a public image.
He's doing this because he suspects it'll speed up Moriarty's game. High-profile cases are more likely to draw Moriarty out because they'll give him something to work with. It's the same way he'll later stage having a drug problem for Magnuson. He creates a public image that Moriarty can destroy. Sherlock is constantly terrified, and he has all these feelings for John that he can't express, so he wants this ordeal over with. That's why he's taking it upon himself to speed things up. He's even starting to show annoyance at how much John has totally bought his unfeeling act.
Sarcasm.
Yes.
Speaking of that Interpol case, does this name sound familiar?
Peter Ricoletti.
Yeah, it should.
What was her name? The bride?
Emilia Ricoletti.
The fact that an extremely obscure Holmes canon reference was used twice on the show is no coincidence. I'll be talking more about that very soon. During this press conference, the members of Scotland Yard give Sherlock a deerstalker. Oh. I've already spoken extensively about the symbolism of Sherlock's deerstalker, but in case you haven't seen that video and don't want to check it out now, the hat essentially represents Sherlock's public image as well as the public perception that he's straight. Sherlock is clearly suffering when he's forced to wear it. The connection between public perception and sexuality is made clear in the next conversation, when John complains about being referred to as a confirmed bachelor, which is a slang term for a gay man, while Sherlock complains about the public loving the hat so much.
Why is it always the hat photograph?
Bachelor John Watson.
What the hat is it anyway?
Bachelor? What the hell are they implying?
Is it a cat? Why's it got two fronts?
It's a deer stalker. Frequently seen in the company of
Stalk
Bachelor
a deer
John
with a
Watson.
hat. You meant to do? Throw it?
Confirmed bachelor, John Watson.
So death frisbee.
John is concerned at this turn of events.
Okay, this is too much. We need to be more careful.
Notice that he doesn't question how they could possibly think that. He says they need to be more careful, a phrase that implies that there's something they need to hide, something about their sexualities. Well, his own sexuality anyway. He doesn't know anything about Sherlock's. John is concerned for another gay reason. He's already seen the press turn on someone he loved.
What do you mean more careful?
I mean, this isn't a deer stalker now, it's a Sherlock Holmes hat. I mean that you're not exactly a private detective anymore. You're this far from famous.
Oh, it'll pass.
It better pass. If the press will turn Sherlock, they always turn, and they'll turn on you.
Seeing that happen to Sholto was a very negative experience, and he doesn't want to see that happen to Sherlock, especially since the press already suspect that John has feelings for him. He doesn't want that to negatively impact Sherlock either. Speaking of the press, many of the transitions in the early part of this episode involve newspaper headings and TV news clips. The press has a huge presence in this episode, as well as in the events of Sherlock's fall. Considering how prominent the media is in this episode, if the writers later introduced a character with a heavy influence over the media without intending to connect him to these events, it wouldn't make much sense. Moriarty eventually decides that the wait has gone on long enough and starts up the game again. He stages a situation that he knows will trick Sherlock, because Sherlock always wants things to be so clever. That's his weakness. Sherlock clearly still thinks that faking suicide is a likely outcome, and is continuing to hint to John to be suspicious of suicide, to not believe it's real. This time by solving a centuries-old case in the middle of the living room where John can't possibly ignore it.
So, did you just talk to him for a really long time?
Oh, Henry Fishguard never committed suicide. Bow Street runners missed everything.
Pressing case, is it?
Moriarty texts Sherlock to let him know the game has started up. The flirting in the Great Game clearly wasn't an act, since he's still signing off with little kisses.
Sherlock.
Not now.
He's back.
Moriarty's message is again very clear about his true intent. He wants to get Sherlock. If you check John's blog, you can see that Moriarty has already broken into 221B at least once.
So here we are, Sherlock Holmes HQ.
And so the smiley face in the O was meant to remind Sherlock that even his home isn't safe for him, that he can get in there whenever he wants. Sherlock will later show that he's looking for other reasons for the message to be get Sherlock, but from John's reaction, he clearly understands the message, even when Sherlock doesn't. We get another press-centric transition as things rev up for the trial.
James Moriarty early today accused of
attempting to steal the crown jewels. At the Old Bailey, we have Reichenbach hero Sherlock Holmes.
Again, if there happened to be a newspaper owner in a future series who didn't relate at all to the media focus in this episode, it would be a very strange choice. We also get a sense of John and Sherlock putting on a carefully constructed face for the media, that they need to prepare so that no one suspects what's happening behind closed doors.
Ready?
Yes.
And what happened behind closed doors? Desperate staring while they watched each other getting dressed. That's what needs to be hidden away. And since I can already hear you asking in the comments, the song here, Sinner Man, does add another layer to the narrative. Since I get asked a lot, yes, I will be making a video on music in the show, and I'll go into a lot more detail there. For now, the basics. This song is about a man trying to run from his sins, looking to hide in various places, and eventually being forced to face the devil. You should already know who the devil is.
He said go to the devil all on that day.
Every detail on this show, including the music, is chosen for a reason. There's an exchange on the way into the trial where Moriarty forces a female guard to reach into his pocket.
Would you mind slipping your hand into my pocket?
Some people take this to mean that all of Moriarty's flirting with Sherlock means nothing, but it makes a lot more sense in the overall context if this is meant to establish that this entire situation is sexual and designed to make Sherlock feel likewise uncomfortable. The manipulative sexual advances don't stop with Moriarty. We cut from that scene to Sherlock washing his hands and being confronted by a woman pretending to have a crush on him.
I'm a big fan. I read your cases, follow them all. Sign my shirt, would you?
Sherlock specifically mentions that there are two types of fans.
There are two types of fans.
Well?
Catch me before I kill again, type A.
Uh-huh. What's type B?
Your bedroom's just a taxi right away.
Moriarty is both, but which kind is John? Kitty is neither. She's a journalist, looking to get a leg up by offering to protect Sherlock's reputation. His reputation regarding his sexuality, to be specific. Like, not even kidding, she offers to set the record straight immediately after implying that Sherlock is in a relationship with John.
You and John Watson, just platonic? Could I put you down for a no there as well? There's all sorts of gossip in the press about you. Sooner or later, you're going to need someone on your side. Someone to set the record straight.
Sherlock, as always, says nothing about her assumption, but the fact that she wants to set the record straight infuriates him. She's trying to manipulate him and use his sexuality to blackmail him into helping her. Sherlock hates people like that. Violently. Knowing that Sherlock is actually gay and has feelings for John explains his extreme reaction here. He doesn't want her help hiding anything, and he thinks her trying to use his sexuality to benefit herself is repulsive.
I don't see smart, and I definitely don't see trustworthy, but I'll give you a quote if you like. 3 little words. You repel me.
So Sherlock goes into the courtroom already irritated, and he's faced with Moriarty, the very thing he's been afraid of for months. We know he uses his brains as a way to distance himself from people, and it's the same here. He starts showing off as a way to seem above the situation and hide the fact that he's scared.
Would you describe him as what?
Can't do that. You're leading the witness. He'll object and the judge will uphold.
Mr. Holmes.
Ask me how. How would I describe him? What opinion have I formed of him? Did not teach you this.
Mr. Holmes, we're fine without your help.
He even finds the courage to mock Moriarty for thinking they share a special connection after just one meeting.
We met twice, 5 minutes in total. I pulled the gun, he tried to blow me up. I felt we had a special something.
Sherlock's behavior quickly gets him thrown out of the courtroom.
Do you think you could survive for just a few minutes without showing off?
Back at Baker Street, we see that Sherlock clearly thinks John is clever, since he assumes they both know what's happening.
Don't do that.
Do what?
The look.
Look?
You're doing the look again.
Well, I can't see it, can I? It's my face.
Yes, and it's doing a thing. You're doing a we both know what's really going on here face.
Well, we do.
Sherlock actually really wants John to be that clever, because that means he won't fall for whatever happens next. But John is annoyed at Sherlock for never actually speaking to him and just communicating in glances.
No, I don't, which is why I find the face so annoying.
They need to actually talk. Sherlock looks terrified when he turns away from John.
Somehow this is part of his scheme.
And the transition includes a horror scream similar to the ones in Hounds of Baskerville. So he really is still afraid of Moriarty. He doesn't even try to go to the courthouse the next day. He stays at home, almost praying to himself that Moriarty gets convicted.
You must find him guilty.
Of course, Moriarty doesn't, and when John warns Sherlock that Moriarty is obviously going to come after him, Sherlock doesn't respond. He just begins bracing himself for their meeting.
Not guilty. They found him not guilty. No defense, and Moriarty's walked free. Sherlock, are you listening? He's out. You know he'll be coming after you.
This is the first of many times in this episode where Sherlock intentionally pushes John away, and as a result gets closer to Moriarty. This pattern shows that in order for Sherlock to be safe, he needs John by his side. The fact that Sherlock is only pushing John away to hide his feelings from him solidifies the message that Sherlock's happiness depends on him sharing those unspoken feelings. Sherlock makes tea and begins playing his violin to calm himself. Moriarty arrives and takes Sherlock's chair.
May I?
Please.
Keep in mind that Moriarty probably already has the apartment bugged at this point, possibly has had it bugged for ages, so he knows he's forcing Sherlock to sit in John's chair. He's probably also seen Sherlock sadly staring at it when John is away, since that's something he's known to do. And so he knows that forcing Sherlock to sit in that chair will make him feel more vulnerable. Moriarty talks about Sherlock and himself like they're a musical composition, an unfinished melody, which definitely has a romantic overtone. He's trying to win over Sherlock again.
Couldn't cope with an unfinished melody.
Neither can you, it's why you come.
But be honest, you're just a tiny bit pleased.
What with the verdict?
With me. Back on the streets.
He really believes that they need each other.
You need me, or you're nothing.
He clearly resents that Sherlock is a good man capable of feelings, though.
Because we're just alike, you and I. Except you're boring. You're on the side of the angels.
love. He'll make it clear why exactly that bothers him in just a bit. Sherlock brings up that Moriarty obviously got to the jury, and look at the phrasing that Moriarty uses here.
And every person has their pressure point. Someone that they want to protect from harm.
Again, if the writers had another villain using the exact same phrasing,
Very hard to find a pressure point on you, Mr. Holmes.
without relating them to Moriarty, it wouldn't make any sense. This is how Moriarty gets to Sherlock too. He knows the person he wants to protect from harm. John. It's at this point that Sherlock mentions Moriarty burning him, because he's afraid that's how Moriarty will do it, by getting to John.
So how are you going to do it? Burn me.
Moriarty instead starts talking about a final problem.
Oh, that's the problem. The final problem. Have you worked out what it is yet? What's the final problem? I did tell you, but did you listen?
He's told him twice over, once with staying alive, and then again with get Sherlock. The problem is getting Sherlock to become like him without one or both of them dying. Moriarty also starts planting hints that he knows will distract Sherlock, since Sherlock wants everything to be so clever. Moriarty gets Sherlock to confirm that he's tricked him, that he really believes there is a computer key code, and then feeds the idea.
You want me to tell you what you already know?
No, I want you to prove that you know it.
You didn't take anything because you don't need to.
Good.
You'll never need to take anything ever again.
Very good, because?
Because nothing in the Bank of England, the Tower of London, or Pentonville Prison could possibly match the value of the key that could get you into all three.
I can open any door anywhere with a few tiny lines of computer code. No such thing as a private bank account now. Or mine, no such thing as secrecy. I own secrecy.
And of course, he keeps flirting.
In a world of locked rooms, the man with the key is king. And honey, you should see me in a crown.
Sherlock thinks he understands what the trial was for, and Moriarty pretends to confirm it, while subtly telling him what it was actually for, being seen as sexually desirable.
You were advertising all the way through the trial. You were showing the world what you can do.
And you were helping. They all want me. Suddenly, I'm Mr. Sex.
Sherlock asks what his core motivation is, and Moriarty again makes a sexual comment.
What do you care about the highest bidder?
I don't. I just like to watch them all competing. Daddy loves me the best.
And we see why Moriarty is annoyed with Sherlock being on the side of the angels.
Aren't ordinary people adorable? Well, you know, you've got John.
Because that means John is in the way. He also refers to John as a live-in one.
I should get myself a live-in one.
After that phrase was specifically used to imply that John had feelings for Sherlock in the last episode.
This is his PA.
PA.
Well, live-in PA.
Perfect.
Live-in.
Sherlock asks once again what it's all for, and Moriarty gets slightly more direct. Pay special attention to Moriarty's parting line.
Never liked riddles.
Learn to. Because I owe you a full, Sherlock. I owe you.
I don't think I would have noticed this detail without M-theory. How can Sherlock owe Moriarty a fall unless Moriarty already fell for Sherlock? Oh, wait! So again, the central conflict of the episode being a romantic overture on the part of the villain makes Sherlock's sexuality a key point in the story, and draws a sharp contrast between Moriarty's behavior and John's, the way John loyally stays by Sherlock's side despite truly believing he has no chance with him. Because John is a good man, and his love is selfless, and that's the love that Sherlock will always want in the end. Mycroft, of all people, knows this. He summons John to warn him, going out of his way to avoid Sherlock. There's a bit of meta-humor with the Diogenes Club, the secret government agency in control of the world of the story, where an emphasis is placed on the status quo and silence is traditional. John breaks the silence and is annoyed at the tradition.
Am I invisible? Can you actually see me? Ah, thanks, gents. I've been asked to meet Mycroft home. What the hell?
Tradition, John. Our traditions define us.
So total silence is traditional, is it? You can't even say pass the sugar.
They're gonna break it eventually, John. Don't worry. But Mycroft knows how rare it is to find someone who likes Sherlock, let alone loves him.
School friend, maybe?
Of Sherlock's.
He tries to get John to understand the plan so he can help Sherlock. He hints about Brooke's name being the English translation of Reichenbach, and left the newspaper there so John would guess what's coming.
I'd love to know where she got her information.
Someone called Brooke. Recognize the name?
John doesn't connect things like that, though, so he doesn't get it. So Mycroft moves on to the next part of his plan, warning John about the assassins.
In fact, 4 top international assassins relocate to within spitting distance of 221B.
And when John insists that Moriarty would have already killed them, Mycroft pushes him to reconsider that belief.
You think this is Moriarty?
He promised Sherlock he'd come back.
If this was Moriarty, we'd be dead already.
If not Moriarty, then who?
John brings up a very good question. Why doesn't Mycroft just talk to his brother?
Why don't you talk to Sherlock if you're so concerned about him?
Mycroft excuses it through a feud.
Too much history between us, John. Old scores, resentments.
And that's partially true. Mycroft telling Sherlock to act a certain way would cause Sherlock to rebel against him. But that's not the reason he's trying to get John to protect Sherlock. He's doing it because he himself can't protect Sherlock. His hands are tied. You can see how annoyed he is with John not understanding and cooperating more. Because it's very important that John gets this, or his brother is in very real danger.
So you want me to watch out for your brother because he won't accept your help?
If it's not too much trouble.
And again, he wouldn't be depending on John so much if he himself had the power to protect Sherlock from Moriarty. But unfortunately, he can't. Like, think about it. If Mycroft had any real power here, why wouldn't he just keep Moriarty locked away? The government clearly had enough on him to keep him in custody for months. So why does Mycroft free him and never try to bring him in again? Unless he can't. Because every person has their pressure point, the person they want to protect, and that person for Mycroft is Sherlock. And Moriarty knows that. Much like Magnuson in Series 3, Moriarty has Mycroft under his thumb by using his pressure points. And so Mycroft is helpless, and has to resort to trying to get John to understand so he can protect his brother, or else watch both of them suffer. Moriarty's next phase of the plan is already starting. He's kidnapped 2 children and left a trail of breadcrumbs for Sherlock to find. It's emphasized here that 221B is under surveillance.
Isn't it great to be working with a celebrity?
And we have no idea for how long. Since the trial, since Moriarty broke in and filmed himself, since he broke into 221C in The Great Game, even earlier, we have no idea. We just know that Moriarty has the means to place cameras in Baker Street without being noticed by Sherlock. That means we can never be confident that 221B isn't being filmed. In the kidnapping case, Sherlock finds the clue by putting himself in the shoes of a frightened little boy, which he finds surprisingly easy for some reason.
Boy sleeps there every night, gazing at the only light source outside in the corridor. He'd recognize every shape. What would he do? The precious few seconds before they came into the room. How would he use them if not to cry out? This little boy, this particular little boy, who reads all of those spy books. What would he do?
He smiles to himself because he knows he can find them, and John is there to protect him from not always doing the right thing at the right time.
Having fun?
Starting to.
Maybe don't do the smiling. Kidnap children?
They head to the lab, and Sherlock makes a comment that Molly should avoid dating since the last person she dated was Moriarty.
Need your help. It's one of your boyfriends. We're trying to track him down. He's been a bit naughty.
It's Moriarty.
Of course it's Moriarty.
Jim actually wasn't even my boyfriend. We went out 3 times. I ended
Yes, and then he stole the crown jewels, broke into the Bank of England and organised a prison break in Pentonville. For the sake of law and order, I suggest you avoid all future attempts at a relationship, Molly.
Since Molly is a John mirror, and the next person John dates is a literal murderer, he probably should have listened to this advice. In the lab, Sherlock is set up in front of a set of rainbow jars,
So all the shoe is like a passport. If we're lucky, we can see everything that he's been up to.
which fits the conversation that's about to take place. Sherlock calls Molly John when she helps him,
Alkaline.
Thank you, John.
Molly.
Yes.
revealing the person who matters to him most. He starts muttering IOU under his breath, showing that he is still genuinely trying to figure out what Moriarty is up to. He doesn't have this all figured out. When John walks by, Sherlock stops what he's doing to stare at him as he walks past, and we get a lingering shot on him from Sherlock's point of view.
You said I owe you?
Molly notices too. Since Sherlock isn't making an effort to hide from her, she can see his feelings, and she knows the source.
You look sad when you think he can't see you. Are you okay? Don't just say you are, because I know what that means, looking sad when you think no one can see you.
And why would Sherlock be bothering to hide his feelings from John? And why would him hiding those feelings be a key plot point? Unless those hidden feelings are important to the story, and Sherlock is going to end up sharing them with John. Molly offers her help, and it's here that Sherlock realizes that because he overlooked Molly, Moriarty probably did too.
You can see me.
I don't count.
That makes her valuable, although he doesn't know how he can use that to his advantage yet.
What can I need from you?
John notices the seal on the envelope that was left on the boarding house and brings the clue to Sherlock.
Sherlock? This envelope that was in her trunk. There's another one.
Sherlock is visibly upset as he works through the puzzle.
PGPR.
What's that?
It's used in making chocolate.
Probably because the end is becoming all too real now that it's so close, and he knows soon he'll have to face Moriarty alone. He puts on a brave face by the time they get to Scotland Yard.
What have you got for us?
One of the clues, the vegetation, has a hidden message.
John. Rhododendron ponticum. Batches.
Rhododendron flowers are symbolic of a warning. They mean beware. As they arrive at the factory, the fall music starts to swell, since this case will solidify Sherlock's downfall.
Spread out!
Moriarty arranged that the kidnapper would look like Sherlock, meaning that Scotland Yard will suspect him of the crime.
Claudette, No, I know it's been hard for you. Claudette, listen to me. Get out!
Sherlock is deeply shocked at the little girl's reaction. He's upset about it and stares dejectedly out of the window, which is when he sees a message from Moriarty.
So what's she said?
Hasn't uttered another syllable.
And the boy?
No, he's unconscious. Still in intensive care.
At that moment, he knows he's unwittingly played into Moriarty's game. Sally's comment to him as he walks out of the station helps him guess what Moriarty is up to.
Brilliant work you did, finding those kids from just a footprint. It's really amazing.
Thank you.
Unbelievable.
He takes a cab alone, specifically because John might talk.
Okay.
Thinking. This is my cab. You get the next one.
Why?
You might talk.
He's abandoning John again. Considering this from Sherlock's perspective, he's scared and lost, and if John tries to talk to him, Sherlock might actually talk back. And he can't, so he pushes John away again. And again, the more Sherlock pushes John away, the closer he gets to Moriarty. This time, he's alone with him in the cab, which Moriarty probably did to remind him of the first time Sherlock learned his name.
Hello. Are you ready for the story? This is the story of Sir Boustalot. Sir Boustalot was the bravest and cleverest knight at the Round Table, but soon the other knights began to grow tired of his stories about how brave he was and how many dragons he'd slain. And soon they began to wonder, are Sir Boustalot's stories even true?
Moriarty is always warning him of what's immediately to come to keep him from figuring out the larger game, the same way he did in the Great Game. He's referring to Sherlock as a knight, which is a romantic idea, and if someone were to use similar fairy tale language to refer to Sherlock, they're probably connected to Moriarty too, especially if they likewise place him in the knight role.
A necessary evil, not a dragon for you to slay.
A dragon slayer. Is that what you think of me?
No. It's what you think of yourself.
Well, look how you care about John Watson. Your damsel in distress.
Moriarty also knows that Sherlock wants to be liked, to have friends, and so his plan is isolation, and it's working all too well. Sherlock is even more upset when he sees that Moriarty is the one driving him.
What was that?
No charge.
To make things even worse, Moriarty set up all the assassins so that Sherlock would end up seeing some of them die.
Thank you.
It's clear when John catches up that Sherlock is becoming completely unhinged. They rush back to Baker Street, and Sherlock realizes they're being watched and starts looking for a camera. He finds one. Again, we have no idea how long it's been there, or if it's the only one. We just know that cameras can be placed in Baker Street without Sherlock noticing. Lestrade arrives, and Sherlock incorrectly assumes that Moriarty's plan is going with him, and so refuses to leave.
One photograph, that's his next move. Moriarty's game. First the scream, then a photograph of me being taken in for questioning. He wants to destroy me inch by inch. It is a game, Lestrade, and not one I'm willing to play.
He's very calm about the idea that Moriarty has tricked Lestrade.
You can't kill an idea, can you? Not once it's made a home. There.
But when faced with the same possibility for John, Sherlock has an extremely negative reaction, even when it's obvious that John's concern is for Sherlock's well-being and his feelings.
People will think...
I don't care what people think.
You'd care if they thought you were stupid.
or wrong.
No, that would just make them stupid or wrong.
Sherlock, I don't want the world believing you're...
And I am what?
A fraud.
Again, John saw this happen with Sholto, and it was extremely painful. He can't see that happen to Sherlock too, but Sherlock isn't noticing that. He's so afraid at the possibility of John doubting him that he explodes.
You're worried they're right.
What?
You're worried they're right about me.
No.
That's why you're so upset you can't even entertain the possibility that they might be right. You're afraid that you've been taken in as well.
No, I'm not.
Moriarty is playing with your mind too. Can't you see what's going on?
But John never doubts Sherlock, not when everything is pointing against him. Even on his first day of knowing him, he didn't think Sherlock was the murderer, and he still doesn't now. He's with him no matter what.
No, I know you for real.
100%.
Nobody could fake being such an annoying dick all the time.
John's extreme devotion to someone who he believes doesn't even understand the feelings he has is already heartbreaking on its own. But since we already know that Sherlock is going to die by the end of the episode, it's even worse. Lestrade warns John that they're coming back to Baker Street to arrest Sherlock.
So I've still got some friends on the force. It's Lestrade. Says they're all coming over here right now. Queuing up to slap on the handcuffs.
And Mrs. Hudson comes in with another message from Moriarty.
Oh, sorry, am I interrupting? Some chap delivered a parcel, I forgot. Marked perishable, I had to sign for it. Funny name. German. Like the fairy tales.
Burnt to a crisp.
Sherlock realizes from the burnt gingerbread man, who's famous for running away from his problems straight into an oven, that he's done exactly what Moriarty wanted, even as he tried not to. His only option now is to do what Moriarty wants. Run. So he leaves calmly, knowing he can get away.
Have you got a warrant? Have you? Leave it, John.
Sherlock Holmes, I'm arresting you on suspicion of abduction.
John doesn't, and we're again shown the loyalty and trust that John has in Sherlock. When he sees some random guy calling Sherlock a weirdo, it's too much for him. He decides he's with Sherlock, right until the end.
That's our man.
Yes, sir.
Looks a bit of a weirdo, if you ask me. Often are. These vigilante types. What are you looking at?
You all right, sir?
Joining me? Yeah. Apparently it's against the law to chin the chief superintendent.
It's a bit amusing that John and Sherlock have no friends except each other and the man arresting them, so there's no one to bail them out.
Bit awkward, this. There's no one to bail us.
Sherlock is already thinking of their escape and uses a radio left in the car to distract everyone while he grabs a gun. It's clear even now that he's nervous. He says please when he's asking everyone to get down.
Ladies and gentlemen, will you all please get on your knees? No! Would be good!
Okay, my guy. Okay. We get another display of John's unshakable trust in Sherlock. He actually relaxes when Sherlock points a loaded gun at his head.
Just so you're aware, the gun is his idea. I'm just, you know, my hostage!
Hostage, yes, that works. That works.
As they back away, you can see another IOU left from Moriarty, this time with angel wings.
So what now?
Doing what Moriarty wants.
As they run, we get another emphasis on public perception, specifically of their sexualities, when Sherlock tells John to take his hand, and John says now people will really talk.
Take my hand.
Now people will definitely talk.
First of all,
So not just a cheap gay joke, a
No,
supervillain.
no, no.
so let's really think about this. They're literally on the run from the police, and John is worried about people seeing them holding hands and thinking they have feelings for each other. Either he's a super intense homophobe, which he's clearly not,
I'm just saying, it's all fine.
or he's defensive because he felt something the second Sherlock took his hand. That one's a lot more likely. Seconds later, Sherlock scales a fence without considering it will leave both of them stuck, and John pulls him close and tells him they need to work together.
Sherlock, wait! We're going to need to coordinate.
Since they just alluded to their hidden feelings, they need to work together on that too. Sherlock can't just keep running ahead of John, counting on the fact that he'll follow. It won't work forever. John asks about going to Mycroft, and Sherlock, like Mycroft, alludes to a feud.
What about Mycroft? He could help us. Big family reconciliation? Now's not really the moment.
Since Sherlock mentioned that he was working with Mycroft in his initial explanation to John, we know that part is true, so we know they're working together on this. For some reason, Sherlock thinks that Mycroft helping helping him fake his death is the most he's willing to do, and he doesn't question that. In reality, it's all Mycroft can do. Sherlock sees one of the assassins and decides to lure him into helping them by jumping in front of a double-decker bus.
And if a double-decker bus crashes into us, to die by your side is such a heavenly way to die.
I mean, considering all of the other possibilities, Sherlock would probably much rather prefer to die by John's side. The assassin saves them, though, and tells them he thinks they have the computer key code.
What? The computer key code.
Sherlock instantly buys it without question, because it offers an explanation of Moriarty coming to his home that doesn't involve a creepy sexual advance as the main motivation.
Of course, he's selling it. Program he used to break into the tower. He planted it when he came around. That's why he left that message, telling everyone where to come. Get Sherlock.
Moriarty is showing throughout this episode that he really understands how Sherlock thinks, and what his weaknesses are. He's thought all of this through very well, and it's very unlikely that anything Sherlock does at this point will surprise him. John picks up a newspaper and shows Sherlock the article he saw when he visited Mycroft. Unlike John, Sherlock realizes who Reichenbach is the second he sees the name.
Yeah, well, have you seen this? A kiss and tell. Some bloke called Reichenbach. Who is he?
They break into Kitty's apartment, Sherlock hoping to convince her that the man she's been meeting with is a liar.
Oh, come on, Kitty. No one trusts the voice at the end of a telephone. There are all those furtive little meetings in cafes, those sessions in the hotel room where we gabble into your dictaphone. How do you know that you can trust him? Man turns up with the Holy Grail in his pockets. What were his credentials?
Unfortunately, Moriarty has been watching all of their movements and follows them in before they can get anywhere.
Darn, and they didn't have any ground coffee, so I just got more.
Sherlock obviously wasn't expecting Moriarty to turn up. Even now, John still doesn't doubt Sherlock. And when you're paying attention to Sherlock and Moriarty's faces, it's obvious that the entire thing is a lie. But the idea that Moriarty might be able to turn John against him is again too much for Sherlock, and he explodes.
Just tell him. It's all coming out now. It's all over. Just tell them. Just tell them. Tell them! It's all over. No, no! Don't you touch me. Don't you lay a finger on me.
Stop it. Stop it now!
Once they're outside, it's clear that Moriarty's plan hasn't worked. John still believes in Sherlock.
Can he do that? Completely change his identity? Make you the criminal?
He's got my whole life story.
That's what you do when you sell a big lie. Wrap it up in a truth to make it more palatable.
Sherlock thinks aloud about what Moriarty is building up to, and he has a genuine revelation.
There's only one thing he needs to do to complete his game, and that's to...
It's going to end up the way he feared it would all along. Notice that Sherlock doesn't let John see his face after he realizes that he's going to have to leave him.
Sherlock?
Something I need to do.
Well, what can I help?
Not on my own.
But by the time he reaches the hospital, he's in tears.
You're wrong, you know. You do count. You've always counted, and I've always trusted you. But you were right. I'm not okay.
So those tears are genuine. He goes to Molly because he realized earlier in the episode that he overlooked her, and so he thinks Moriarty probably did too.
I think I'm going to die.
What do you need?
If I wasn't everything that you think I am, everything that I think I am, would you still want to help me?
She's the only one who can set this up so that he won't actually have to die, so that someday he'll be able to come back to John. If you're still worried that this scene is setting up a romance between Sherlock and Molly, I really recommend watching my Molly Hooper video. In summary, Sherlock is upset here because of John. The tears are real here because he knows he's gonna have to leave him. He goes to Molly because he thinks Moriarty overlooked her, and a romantic reading of this scene is dismissed right away in Series 3. John doesn't turn against Sherlock even though he's left him alone again. He's worked out how Moriarty got his stories, and confronts the person responsible, Mycroft.
She has really done her homework, Miss Riley. It's things that only someone close to Sherlock could know. Have you seen your brother's address book lately? 2 names, yours and mine, and Moriarty didn't get this stuff from me.
John.
So how does it work then, your relationship? You go out for a coffee now and then, hey? You and Jim, your own brother, and you blabbed about his entire life to this maniac.
John is more right about his accusations than he imagines. You can see in Mycroft's face that he's clearly upset. but he can't do anything. John finally understands the reason why Mycroft called him earlier.
I never dreamt. This is what you were trying to tell me, isn't it? Watch his back, because I've made a mistake.
Again, he's more right than he imagines. John asks how Mycroft knows Moriarty, and Mycroft still can't tell the full truth, but you can see the genuine fear in his face when he talks about Moriarty.
But James Moriarty, the most dangerous criminal mind the world has ever seen.
You can also see him start to gain composure when he starts lying about the computer code.
And in his pocket, the ultimate weapon, a key code. A few lines of computer code that can unlock any door.
Because while the idea of a computer key code that can unlock anything might work on Sherlock, Mycroft and the government obviously know better. That's not the real reason he was brought in, and it's not why Mycroft talked to Moriarty. Even if he believed in the key code at first, as soon as Moriarty started talking, it would have been clear the key code was fake, so he got no valuable information out of him. Instead, he talked because he had to.
I could get him to talk. Just a little.
In return, you had to offer him Sherlock's life story.
And released him because he had to. Because Moriarty knows that Mycroft's pressure point is Sherlock, and if Mycroft doesn't comply, Moriarty will kill Sherlock. John's speech applies to this situation.
So, one big lie. Sherlock's a fraud. But people will swallow it because the rest of it's true.
One big lie. Mycroft had some choice in this situation, but John buys it because it's wrapped in the truth. That Mycroft is the reason that Sherlock is in this situation, and that he's filled with regret. And that regret is genuine. He sends his apologies to his brother.
I'm sorry.
Oh.
Tell him, would you?
He looks like that after John has already turned away. It's not to trick him, it's a genuine apology. Mycroft knows he's messed up. That wouldn't be the case if Mycroft and Sherlock were really on top of things. Mycroft is under Moriarty's thumb, totally and completely. John heads to the hospital, where Sherlock has gotten them a safe place to wait thanks to Molly's help. Sherlock is preparing himself to stage his death. But he's still looking for any way out. So when John's taps remind him of Moriarty's, he jumps on the chance that he actually has a way out of this. He casts a sad glance at John and informs Moriarty that he's ready to meet. John falls asleep while they wait, and Sherlock is turned in such a way that implies he's been watching him, preparing himself for the possibility that this might be the last time they're this close for quite a while. Moriarty arranges for someone to call John to lure him away, and John believes that Mrs. Hudson has been shot without question.
What happened? Is she okay? Oh my god.
Sherlock knows it's fake, and he also wants John to leave so he's safe while all of this is happening. And he has the perfect way to get him to leave. He's already built up a heartless persona around himself. He just has to pretend to not understand feelings one last time, and then this will all be over. One way or another. It works like a charm.
She's dying, Sherlock. Let's go.
You go, I'm busy.
Busy?
Thinking. I need to think.
You need to... Doesn't she mean anything to you? You once half killed a man because he laid a finger on her.
She's my landlady.
This heartless act causes John to finally lose patience, and he yells at Sherlock before he leaves.
She's dying! You machine... Sod this. Sod this. You stay here if you want, on your own.
Alone is what I have. Alone protects me.
Nope. Friends protect people.
That's going to haunt him for years. He's going to think that part of the reason that Sherlock ended up jumping off a roof is because he thought he didn't have John by his side in those last moments. With John gone, Moriarty texts Sherlock to summon him to the roof. There are rainbows on the screen as the episode transitions to the final gay climax. When Sherlock arrives on the roof, Moriarty mocks him for being way too easy to defeat.
Here we are at last. You and me, Sherlock. And our problem, the final problem. Staying alive! It's so boring, isn't it? It's just... staying. All my life I've been searching for distractions. You were the best distraction, and now I don't even have you. Because I've beaten you. And you know what? In the end, it was easy. It was easy. Now I got to go back to playing with the ordinary people. And it turns out you're ordinary, just like all of them.
Because he knows Sherlock's plan is to fake his death. He knows he picked the rooftop as a meeting place for that reason. Sherlock isn't about to outsmart or surprise him in any way. Moriarty just has to push Sherlock a little bit further, make it easier to burn his heart through extended isolation. Sherlock mentions Moriarty's name, Rich Brooke, and the reason Moriarty chose it.
Rich Brooke in German is Reichenbach. The case that made my name.
Just trying to have some fun.
It's the case that made his name, again tying back to that emphasis on public image. In this show, Sherlock's image as an infallibly clever detective exists only so that it can be torn down. Sherlock starts going on about the computer key code, and again there are a lot of rainbows overlaying this scene.
Attaboy.
Binary code.
Emphasizing that the main conflict is about gay feelings. Moriarty reveals that there was no key code, that he made it up because he knew Sherlock would fall for it.
I can kill Rich Brooke and bring back Jim Moriarty.
No. This is too easy. This is too easy. There is no key. Doofus! You don't really think a couple of lines of computer code are going to crash the world around our ears? I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed in you, ordinary Sherlock.
But the rhythm.
Partita number 1. Thank you, Johann Sebastian Bach.
And then how
did I break into the bank, to the tower, to the prison? Daylight robbery! All it takes is some willing participants. I knew you'd fall for it. That's your weakness. You always want everything to be clever.
That will continue to work on Sherlock too. It continues to be the main thing that blinds him. He wants things to be too clever. Sherlock fakes surprise at the idea of faking his death here, and we can see the difference between his fake surprise here and his real revelation earlier.
There's only one thing he needs to do to complete his game, and that's to...
Sherlock?
Something I need to do.
Well, what can I help?
Not on my own. Do it. Do what? Yes, of course. My suicide.
Moriarty starts talking about newspapers, again bringing in that aspect of public reputation.
Genius detective proved to be a fraud. I read it in the paper, so it must be true. I love newspapers. Fairy tales. And pretty grim ones, too.
And again, when they introduce a newspaper mogul in a future series, it only makes sense that he would connect to all of this. John, meanwhile, makes it back to Baker Street and realizes immediately that he's been tricked. He rushes back to the hospital.
No! Police! Sort of!
Moriarty continues to taunt Sherlock, and Sherlock dangles him over the edge of the building.
For me.
Moriarty adds the final motivation for Sherlock to jump.
Let me give you a little extra incentive. Your friends will die if you don't.
Who's Sherlock's first thought? Molly? No.
John.
That was the end of his initial list. Moriarty says everyone, so Sherlock expands it, but just John would have been enough. Needing to protect him would have been enough to motivate him. The rest is overkill. Moriarty goads Sherlock into standing on the edge.
Go on. I told you how this ends.
And then gives him a clue. Seriously, look how he pauses before saying the key line, like he's thinking it over carefully, and then looks up at Sherlock to gauge his reaction.
Your death is the only thing that's going to call off the killers. I'm certainly not going to do it.
He let that slip on purpose. Sherlock doesn't catch it right away. He's focused on how he's going to fake his death when Moriarty is standing right there and can clearly see the ground. He needs to make Moriarty step away.
You give me one moment, please. One moment of privacy. Please.
Again, Moriarty smirks at this. He knows exactly what Sherlock is up to.
Of course.
Sherlock does pick up on Moriarty's hint, though, and steps back down from the ledge.
What is it? What did I miss?
He's so happy at the idea that he might not have to leave John that he literally starts singing.
You're not going to do it. So the killers can be called off, then there's a recall code or a word or a number. I don't have to die. If I've got you.
Moriarty is happy when Sherlock comes to this conclusion.
Oh. You think you can make me stop the order? You think you can make me do that?
Because this is exactly what he needs. For Sherlock to think he's found a way out before he pulls the rug out from under his feet. Moriarty came to the roof planning to fake his death too. He lets Sherlock try to trick him. Lets Sherlock say that he's prepared to do anything, just like he is.
Yes, but I'm not my brother, remember? I am you. Prepared to do anything. Prepared to burn. Prepared to do what ordinary people won't do. You want me to shake hands with you in hell? I shall not disappoint you.
It's funny, because while Sherlock claims that he's not an angel, he's bathed in a bright white light.
You talk big. No. You're ordinary. You're ordinary. You're on the side of the angels.
Oh, I may be on the side of the angels. But don't think for 1 second that I am one of them.
But what Sherlock is saying is exactly what Moriarty wants. He knows Sherlock isn't there yet, but he will be if his plan works, and he's grateful to Sherlock for giving him a glimpse of what that will be like. He almost caresses his arm. You can see the distance in Sherlock's eyes as he's forced to make eye contact with the person he fears most.
Let's see. You're not ordinary. No. You're me.
You're me? Thank you.
Sherlock has done exactly what Moriarty wanted, and Moriarty uses this opportunity to thank him one last time.
Thank you.
Sherlock Holmes.
Thank you.
Bless you.
And then fakes his own death.
As long as I'm alive, you can save your friends. You've got a way out. Well, good luck with that.
Moriarty needs to fake his death to lure Sherlock into a false sense of security. His long game is putting Sherlock through that same process of fear, then hope, then devastation that he does here on a much larger scale. He knows Sherlock won't choose him as long as John is around, and he knows that Sherlock will never share his feelings with John as long as he's afraid of Moriarty. And so he fakes his death, sets it up so that Sherlock will suffer when he comes back to find John in a relationship with Mary, but will eventually have a chance to have hope that they will be together before he shows up and takes it all away again. He probably also knows that Sherlock will want his eventual return to be some part of some clever, elaborate scheme, the same way he has with Moriarty's plans throughout this episode. Like I said before, he has Sherlock all figured out. He told Sherlock right from the beginning that he plans to burn out his heart using John, and that's exactly what he's going to do. Sherlock is so overwhelmed and shocked that he never even bothers to check Moriarty's pulse. It's especially notable because in just a few minutes, we'll see someone else checking for a pulse to get proof that someone is dead. If that death was fake, then very obviously not getting any confirmation of death here is definitely fake. Sherlock realizes that there's really no way out, that he's actually going to have to fake his death and leave John. Now again, I'll be making a video on music later, but I just have to talk about this one thing now. Each of the most important characters gets a theme. Right now I'm focusing on John's. You've heard it a lot before, even if you don't know it. It plays all the time. You can consider it John's heart theme. It plays when something is happening to John's heart, or when someone else is thinking about John's heart. It's usually on piano when it's John dealing with his own heart, but we know that the violin is Sherlock's instrument. Guess what plays as Sherlock steps up to the ledge? What possible reason could they have to play John's theme here? In the saddest version on Sherlock's instrument, have it sadly mingle with John's piano, if they didn't all know they were making a tragic romance scene. Now, if Moriarty knew Sherlock was planning to fake his death and was also planning to fake his own, Sherlock doesn't actually have to trick the snipers here. He just thinks he does. What the sniper is looking for is for John to be devastated. John has to buy it because what Moriarty wants is to separate them. Sherlock also happens to believe that the best way to trick the snipers is for John to believe his suicide. He doesn't know where the gunman is, doesn't know he's in a high place, and so can see everything that happens. So he sets John up in a place where he won't be able to see the impact.
John.
Hey, Sherlock, you okay?
Turn around and walk back where you came.
No, I'm coming in.
Just do as I ask. Please.
And tells John to look up at the roof. John's world shatters.
Okay, look up. I'm on the rooftop.
Oh, God.
Sherlock sounds obviously upset at the start of the conversation.
I can't come down, so we'll just have to do it like this.
But he isn't actually crying, so clearly faking tears isn't necessary to have a sad voice. But when he lies to John and tells him he's a fake, he starts crying.
Why are you saying this?
I'm a fake.
Sherlock.
And he brings up newspapers again.
The newspapers were right all along.
He tries to make John see him the way everyone else does, despite how much it breaks his heart to try to make John see him that way, because that will keep him safe. And he knows he can just tell him the truth when he comes back. But for now, John has to believe he's a fraud. But not even Sherlock can make John doubt him. John goes back to the most important day of his life, the day he met Sherlock, still believing in him without wavering.
Okay, shut up, Sherlock. Shut up. The first time we met, you knew all about my sister, right?
Nobody could be that clever.
You could.
John loves him so much. Sherlock lies again, but his lie is revealing. He says he was trying to impress John.
I researched you.
Before we met, I discovered everything that I could to
impress you.
But then he starts hinting at the truth again, hoping that maybe, just maybe, John will piece it together.
It's a trick.
Just a magic trick.
No. All right, stop it now.
He tells John to keep his eyes on him, so he can't see the people running around setting everything up.
Now stay exactly where you are. Don't move.
All right. Keep your eyes fixed on me.
Please, will you do this for me?
He tells John that this is his note and says goodbye. John just says no.
This phone call,
It's my note. It's what people do, don't they?
Leave a note.
Leave a note when?
Goodbye, John.
No. Don't.
He can't accept this. Sherlock is still crying after he's hung up. The tears are genuine. He doesn't want to leave John, but he has to protect him. And so he throws away his phone and jumps. Watch John's eyes as he falls. When John makes it to Sherlock and can't find a pulse, you can see the life just drain out of him.
My doctor, let me come through. Let me come through, please. No, he's my friend. He's my friend, please. Please, let me just...
John has trust issues, and yet he's leaning on a total stranger. When John gets up and tries to pull himself together, you can see how dead his eyes are. We cut to Mycroft, who's reading the news of his brother's death, and as he reacts sadly, John's theme plays again, telling us he's sad about what this has done to Sherlock and John's relationship, and to John. And again, we can see how this has totally devastated John. We finally catch back up to the start of the episode and see John in therapy. This time the therapist mentions John's unspoken feelings, things he always wanted to say, but never did.
The stuff that you wanted to say, but didn't say it.
Yeah.
She encourages him to say them now, but he can't.
Say it now.
Sorry, I can't.
Like Molly pointing out Sherlock hiding his feelings for John, this is an important moment. Both of them have things they've never told each other, things about their feelings. But what? They're already best friends. They already share every part of their lives. What secrets could there be between them, except for the obvious? The unspoken feelings are romantic for both of them. John goes to visit Sherlock's grave with Mrs. Hudson, and he admits for the first time that he uses anger to hide his feelings.
I'm angry.
Drove me up the wall with all his carryings.
Yeah, listen, I'm not actually that angry, okay?
That explains so much of John's actions. He pretends to be angry when he's actually heartbroken. Mrs. Hudson understands what John doesn't say and leaves him alone to grieve.
Okay, I leave you alone to, you know.
John prepares himself to make a speech. He doesn't say anything here that Sherlock doesn't already know. He says that he believes in Sherlock, that he saw him as a human being.
You told me once that you weren't a hero. There were times I didn't even think you were human, but let me tell you this. You were the best man, the most human being that I've ever known, and no one will ever convince me that you told me a lie. And so, there.
He steps forward and puts a hand on Sherlock's grave and tells him that he was so alone before he met him, that he owes him so much.
I was so alone, and I owe you so much.
Again, this isn't the stuff that he always wanted to say. He clearly doesn't find this speech easy, but it doesn't go as deep as whatever left him speechless in therapy. And again, he said similar things to Sherlock before. He tries to walk away, his left hand twitching. But he turns around and asks Sherlock for the impossible, to stop being dead.
Please, there's just one more thing, mate. One more thing. One more miracle, Sherlock, for me. Don't be dead. Would you just for me? Just stop it. Stop this.
He phrases it like it's only one more miracle, like Sherlock has done countless miracles for him in the past, like just getting to be near him was a miracle, and he finally breaks down. John's grief is so private that we only get to see it in the reflection of Sherlock's grave, and because of this, Sherlock's name is written over John's heart as he cries. John is a soldier, though, and so he pushes it all down and away. He will fight through every day of his life, thinking that the best is already behind him, while never quite fully stopping that small bubble of hope that maybe, just maybe, Sherlock will come back. That'd be a really tragic way to end this series, wouldn't it? With John this broken and us believing that there's no hope. Fortunately for us, one of the writer's favorite things to do is to let us know right at the end that everything is going to be okay. So unlike Doyle, who wrote off this story to kill off Holmes, they tell us right at the end of the episode that Sherlock is alive. Not only that, but he stayed nearby, that he saw this speech, and that he's going to carry John's words with him as he works to dismantle Moriarty's network. And that one day, he'll return, and then neither of them will have to hide their feelings anymore. If only he was right. But things won't resolve that easily. And like I said before, the events of this episode are going to haunt the characters well into the future. And they're still central to the narrative. The two most recent cliffhangers, His Last Vow and The Abominable Bride, have both involved some grand statement about Moriarty's return. Like all my most witty rhetorical questions, this one comes from Stacey. Why would Moriarty's death still be such an important plot point 3 years later if he was actually dead? Because he's not. Because this episode still matters, as we saw when the deepest part of Sherlock's subconscious related to this episode, and because it still hasn't been resolved. It will be soon, but it hasn't yet. Everything that has happened since is just building up to that big resolution. And the climax that the entire series is building up to involves two things. Sherlock being faced with Moriarty's return and finally defeating him with John's help. And John and Sherlock finally discussing all of those unspoken feelings. And that's coming very, very soon. So thanks for sticking with me through this episode. It was a very painful one. I think you probably saw me tearing up for parts of it. I still have that link for M-Theory down below, and I seriously cannot say this enough. Go read it. I am just not going to have the chance to go into all the detail that Louder Subtext and Television did. And there's some really amazing stuff in there, and you'll be much more prepared for my discussion of Series 3 if you've read it recently. As always, I need to thank my lovely girlfriend Stacey for helping me with this script. I think I'll be getting this episode up before the one on the Wild Trials in relation to this episode, in which case that'll be the episode you can expect next, and it'll be up very soon. If not, the ending for both of these videos is going to be a bit messed up, and next up will be Mirrors in Series 3 and The Abominable Bride. Either way, I hope you're looking forward to starting to delve into Series 3 as much as I am. That's when things get really exciting. And until then, get ready to believe. I'm done now. I hate this episode.